Good evening, everybody. This is 12 Gauge. I wanted to hop on here for a minute and discuss the two officers and one first responder that were killed in a Minnesota domestic call. You know, this is becoming such a anomaly in our country that people cannot even do their jobs without fearing that the perpetrator who they're attempting to assist is going to end up taking their lives. It's terrible, to say the least. You know, well, let's get into this and let me know what you think after we.
News in Minnesota, two police officers and a firefighter shot dead while trying to save a family in danger. Officers Paul Elmstrand and Matthew Rouge of the Burnsville Police Department, Adam Finseth, a SWAT team firefighter and paramedic, all three killed while responding to reports of an armed man with multiple guns and large amounts of ammunition barricaded inside of a home with children inside. Investigators tell us the suspect ran between floors of the home, shooting at officers and first responders. We also know the paramedic who died was providing first aid to an injured officer when he was shot and killed. The scene, a reminder of the dangers officers and first responders face every day. Last year, the number of officers shot in the line of duty broke records. News Nation's Emily Finn live in Minnesota with the details of the shootout tonight. Emily, what do we know about this incident so far?
Well, Natasha, this was truly a heartbreaking incident. You can just feel the pain of all these community members gathering here to honor those three men that were killed in the line of duty. We've seen a few dozen people show up already here. The vigil is supposed to get started for those officers in about a half hour, but authorities are still trying to piece together what exactly happened here today. Officers were called to a home in Burnsville, a suburb that's 30 minutes south of the Twin Cities, just before 2 a.m. Authorities say a 911 call reported a suspect armed with multiple guns and lots of ammunition barricaded inside a home with 7 children. When officers arrived on the scene, officials tell us the situation.
So, barricaded with 7 children. Think about that a minute. Was he babysitting? Was he running a daycare? What was he doing? I mean, who had that much ammunition and guns with 7 children in the home? I mean, not that I'm judging or anything, but think about it, bro. What was this man doing? What was going through his mind when he decided, oh, I think I'll run through the house and I'll shoot it at the police and I'll shoot at the first responders? Like this is a freaking video game. You know, I swear people treat life like a freaking video game or a movie. Coming up, she's going to tell you about the statistics that they're keeping about how many people are shot in the line of duty. Let's see if we can get there. Right here.
And in 2023, the National Fraternal Order of Police reported a record 378 officers shot in the line of duty. 47 of those officers died. The Minnesota Police and Peace Officers Association said negotiations with the suspect went on for 4 hours before a SWAT team entered the home. Authorities tell us the suspected gunman is dead. They have not clarified how the suspect died, but we know that no one inside of the home did die, Natasha.
4 hours. You negotiated with somebody who shot 3 of yours for 4 hours.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Greg Lindberg. I'm the city manager here in Burnsville, and it's been a difficult and emotional day here for our community and our team. I thank you all for being with us today as we share some important information on a critical incident that occurred in our community this morning. Today, we'll have several updates for you. First, Drew Evans from the BCA will provide an update on the critical incident that occurred. And then both our police chief and our fire chief will make comments about this difficult day in our team, in our family here in Burnsville. Words can't express how hard today has been.
Okay, that is the chief of police, obviously. And he's talking about how difficult it is there in Burnsville. I mean, I can't imagine working with people and they be taken out while they're trying to help. It just I don't understand it. Let's get to another video. Okay, I'm still trying to get the hang of all these clicking buttons and
Tracy
everything.
Walder, a former FBI special agent and CIA officer. Tracy, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me, Natasha.
And Tracy, this is such a tragic scene and story. We know so far 7 officers and first responders reportedly have been shot and killed in the line of duty across the U.S. so far this year, and the year is young. What is behind this record number of first responders and paramedics and officers we saw injured and killed last year? Is enough being done to protect law enforcement?
Yes and no. It was interesting based on the data that Emily reported from the Fraternal Order of Police. If you look even deeper into that data, about 120 of those shootings were what they call ambush style. And that to me really, in my opinion, says a lot about where we are, because those are individuals that were laying in wait and either luring police officers there or had the intent, if you will, to kill police officers. This wasn't as the result of something else that a police officer was responding to. And in my opinion, that's even more critical to look at that number, because it kind of tells you the why behind it and the narratives behind it. Look, I do think some of the media portrayal of police
5,363 officer injuries reported in 2023. That's huge. As she says, ambush style killings, that means that they're going to help people, or they're pulling people over and the people are ambushing them and killing them for no other reason than them, police, first responders, doing their job. Do we, as a country, have gotten to the point where we hate police officers, first responders, anybody that's suiting up to help us that much that we're just going to shoot them and take them out? Obviously, that individual that did this, that whatever case we're talking about here, they negotiated with him for 4 hours. 4 hours. He didn't give the officers or the first responder 4 hours to decide if they wanted to live or die. I think that there is so much protocol that gets in the way of people doing what they're instinctively trained to do. In the old days, you ran in there, you killed the perpetrator, you didn't negotiate, you didn't do any of this. There were 7 kids in there. He just killed 3 of yours, and there's 7 kids in there. I get that you're not going to shoot through the windows or you're not going to shoot it through the walls or anything like that to get this dude. But for 4 hours, you're going to sit there and negotiate. I just watched the Parkland documentary on Prime Video and it broke my heart. I was unaware that there was an armed guard waiting outside who could have ran in and taken this dude possibly out or at least injured him. But no, he stayed outside. That's the other side of the coin. That's why a lot of these people are gun shy now because they're being ambushed. They don't know what's going to happen. But that's no excuse on that situation. But this situation, they were running into the fire. Not fire, but they were running into the emergency and they lost their lives because of it.
Police officers as, being the bad guy. And the reality is some police officers have made horrific mistakes and are not good people, but we cannot go around executing individuals who are here really for the most part to keep us safe.
Yeah. We know cities like New York are struggling with the surge in officer injuries as well. The NYPD reporting nearly 5,400 injuries last year. That's a 13% jump compared with 2022. What do you think is behind that spike there? And what should New York look at doing?
So the interesting thing about New York is some of that is because of bail reform. So really what they've done is there's now no bail. People just sort of wait it out, if you will, until their trial for things like misdemeanors and nonviolent felonies. But it's my understanding that some violent offenders are slipping through the cracks. And now we have re-released those individuals onto the streets without bail, who, in my opinion, are motivated to not go back to prison, because the reality is they most likely will if they have, other arrests, other things that they've been arrested for in the past. And I think at that point really is when.
Did you hear what she said? That some people are falling through the cracks. If there's some people that are released that really should still be in jail. And since they're waiting their trial, they get out and they do whatever they want to do. I'm kind of upset because I've watched 2 documentaries today and they were both on school shootings. And I don't know if I've been living under a rock or just did not understand the events to the point where it actually just broke my heart. I live in the state of Texas, and the same situation happened here in Uvalde. There was a shooter, and I watched this video, from the surveillance cameras and everything. I watched this. The surveillance cameras captured him from the moment he crashed his truck to the moment they finally took him out. And during that whole time, you just saw police all around the school, in the hallway, looking down the hallway. There was a couple of officers that went down the hallway, but they got shot at, so they came back and they posted up and never tried it again. Nobody knew who was in charge. Nobody said, okay, let's go get him. They just kind of sat there. In the Columbine situation, they took themselves out, or otherwise they probably would have been taking out a lot more people. The Parkland incident, that dude walked out of the school, made it to a Walmart, went inside, grabbed a drink, sat down and drank it, exited the Walmart, ran down the blocks, made it into a McDonald's, and started walking off before somebody saw him. And he was arrested. He did all that in 6 minutes. All that carnage in 6 minutes with a gun. So to say that 6 minutes, 9 minutes, 10 minutes is not a long time, it is a long time. Especially when you're doing damage to that extent and you're focused and you're motivated to hurt people, it is a long time. They finally caught him. And good thing he wasn't like the shooter in Nashville. I think it was Nashville, maybe Memphis. I'm not sure. The transgender that went into the school and started shooting people. And she was on the second floor shooting at the police as they were driving up. There was officers that risked their lives and took her out. They didn't care about getting the word. They didn't care about liabilities. They cared about saving lives. As my caption says, guns aren't the problem. Is this another mental health issue? You know, so many times people want to push that agenda. Mental health, mental health, mental health. Is it really mental health, or is it a drug addiction gone bad and now it's a mental health issue? I'm sure we'll find out later on what was wrong with this individual, whether he was hearing voices or he went on his meds or this and that and the other. 7 kids in that home with him with guns blazing. And you're still going to give him the benefit of the doubt 4 hours later? Do you not have stricter policy to say, okay, even as a country, we've gotten soft. We say we don't negotiate with terrorists, but we sure as hell do. Do we negotiate with active shooters now? Please put the gun down, sir. I know you killed 3 of ours, but we don't want you to kill the 7. Please, please, please. And I'm not trying to be cynical here. I'm not trying to be comical about it. But think about how idiotic that sounds. I mean, are our policies on active shooters so lacked that you need the president to sign off and Congress sign off before you storm the building to do your job? Here in the town that I stay in, they're begging people to come be law enforcement. They can't keep people. And they say that this is a national problem. They can't keep people on the force because they don't feel like their lives are worth the danger that they put themselves in every day. Have we become cowards? These 2 officers and this first responder wasn't a coward. They're going in to assist because they knew that this situation was dire. They might have not have known how dire. They were young. They were running in there to get this situation under control, and bam, they lost their lives. Prayers to the families and everybody affected and all that. To the one that sat there 4 hours later, you should have a gut check. Because there's no way that 4 hours should have been wasted on this piece of shit. And that's just how I feel. I mean, I don't cuss on here very often, but man, I'm really hot about a lot of those things that go on that didn't go on before. Are people joining the force thinking that it's just a walk in the park? All you're doing is just riding around, making sure people are doing what they're supposed to, not running red lights? Are they not prepared for these instances where they're potentially going to be ambushed? It's not their fault. These officers, this first responder, I'm going to do some more research, but they weren't, it wasn't their first time. And it's not their fault. They were doing what they were trained to do. And somehow, after they lost their lives, their coworkers sat there and bargained with a killer. That's the part that pisses me off. 4 hours. Somebody kills me, you better come take care of it. Don't give that motherfucker 4 hours to get leniency to talk you out of killing him or her. Excuse my language, but this really, it irks me, man. It irks me. And I really don't show this type of emotion on my other videos, but man, I'm just fired up right now. Because we're losing the battle, because I work as an extension of law enforcement. I'm getting my criminal justice bachelor's degree. So, it's almost like the criminal has more right than the people that are protecting and serving. We have made it so easy for people to break the law and for them to continue to break the law with zero consequence. Most of the time. They're in and out, they bail out. I look at this jail roster in the city that I used to work in. I used to look at it to see if my clients were on there when they didn't show up to individuals or groups or whatever, to see if they were locked up. Because you see the same people on that roster. How many DWIs are you allowed to have before they say, okay, enough is enough? How many preying on young children until they say enough is enough? But let's lock away the drug addicts. And I'm not pro drug addicts, so don't get it twisted. But at some point, it all has to level out somehow. You shoot at a police officer, you assault a police officer, you should have an express lane to your fate, whatever it is. Possibly the death penalty, capital punishment, things of that nature. But a lot of times we don't. We want to argue for the criminal. Oh, he was raised wrong. He had a bad upbringing. He got beat. He's done too many drugs or alcohol, and his brain's not right. So many signs and symptoms of a deviant mentality and behavior, and yet they're still on these streets to terrorize, taking out innocent victims. And then after the fact, that's when they say, well, so-and-so was notified, so-and-so knew, the FBI knew, this, that, and the other, but they didn't do anything about it. Now we have a shooting, and it's, just another day at the office. This needs to stop. It's needed to stop since Columbine. How many more are we going to have? Most of the time people don't care if it isn't somebody they know, their own kid. But I didn't know any of those kids at Parkland. I didn't know any of those kids at Columbine and all the other shootings that's gone on. but my heart breaks for them and their families because they were just doing what they were supposed to, being sent to school to learn. And many of them never came home. Kind of like the Idaho 4. They were going to college, doing what they were supposed to, and they never came home. You should feel safe in this country that whatever you're doing to better yourself, that your life should at least enable you enough to come home. There should be safety precautions in this world that is not a communist country where you should be safe enough to go to concerts, go to football celebrations, football games, festivals, car shows, you name it, movies, restaurants, grocery stores, you name it. But the world is losing itself. And it's not the gun that is the problem. A lot of times these criminals aren't scared of the consequences anymore. A lot of times they go to work and everybody looks at them and said, oh, that's just so-and-so. He's just a weirdo. But I'm sure he makes comments like, man, I'm going to blow people up one day. Or I really hate this fucking school that I used to go to. I'm going to go take out some of those old ass teachers. But nobody takes them serious. So many times I've heard on these videos, we thought they were fireworks. We thought it was a drill. Places to protect ourselves were locked. You know, at the high school that I went to, and most of the other campuses, they had those doors with no outside handle that you could get into the school. You had to go through the front, and that was the only way in, the only way out. But the other doors you could get out of from the inside. Well, that kept people from sneaking in to the school and doing whatever the hell they wanted to do. But the kids are the problems too. I'm not blaming the kids, okay? But they're dealing drugs in the bathroom. They're smoking vapes in the bathroom. They're doing God knows what else in the bathroom. What are the educators supposed to do? I mean, it's just a ruthless world we live in, and it's hard to protect the ones that are doing right. There's no standard answer. One thing is not gonna fix everything. But I've gone on here and ranted long enough. I hope you enjoy the presentation and my commentary. Once again, excuse me for the language that I've used, but I am human and I am pretty emotional about the things that I've seen and heard tonight, as well as what I've researched throughout the week. If you like what you heard, if you like what you saw, hit the like button, subscribe, let your friends know. We talk about real things over here, and it's not about speculation all the time. It's about real, almost up to the minute things. If not, we're discussing things that could potentially clear issues that have been perpetuated as lies or speculation for a long time. Hope you have a good night. Protect your families. Always tell them you love them, because you just never know.